What's up, everybody? Today I'm going to show you what it's like in my typical working day. And I'm not sure I really have a typical day yet. I will be one of the first people to tell you that my life is lacking in structure and routine and regularity. This is something that I get pretty decent at when I'm in one place, but I've moved a lot recently, and it's kind of, I tend to adopt the structure and the routine of the people I'm around, which is probably true for most people, but because I get to pick who I'm around, I have control by picking who I'm around, right? But I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about what it looks like when I actually am working, because that's a better way to answer the curiosity of what it's like for me to work. Because somebody recently asked, like, oh, can you tell me what time you work, like what hour to what hour, and what does it look like? And I was just like, oh man, there isn't a set time that I work. A lot of my work is based on my feelings, and that fluctuates a lot. So I will just show you what I do when I am working. So without further ado, let's look at the sites here. So it's important that there's got to be some kind of place to lay down that's inconvenient, because you don't want to be in a bed. You don't want to be comfortable, but you want to be able to every now and then lay down for just a couple minutes and take a rest. So also what I need is other tasks, right? So right now I am also cooking. I really love cutting stuff up. Cooking is like, I love cooking because it gives me so many opportunities to I just like working with my hands. So anytime there's a pile of stuff and I gotta do something to it, I really enjoy that. And what I find is that there are some situations where, yeah, I can just sit down and then work for an hour. But the reality is, a lot of the time I can't sit still that much. I can't stay focused that long. So what I find works best for me personally, especially when I'm emotional, because when you feel like working, it's easy to work, obviously, right? The thing is, how do you make sure that you're working when you don't feel like you're working? When you feel really depressed, how do you make sure that you're still getting your work done? When you feel lonely or really emotional or really hyper, how do you make sure that you still get your work done, right? That's really what's trickier, especially as a self-employed person who you run your own schedule, right? So the way that I handle all of that is by controlling my environment and putting things that I need to do around myself. And then what ends up happening is, if I'm really focused, then I can just sit down and do one thing, right? So I'll wake up, and then I come over here, and then I make some tea, and then I sit and I either record or I do something on the computer, something about drop shipping, that kind of thing. Obviously, there's a little bit of daily routine for me because I have to check like sales and process them and that kind of thing. But with the size of the bulk account, that kind of goes off of like, let's just say I'm a really excitement-driven person. So there are some situations where if things have been really slow, I'm gonna take a little bit longer to, like, if things are slow, I might check my sales every 24 hours. Whereas if they are much faster, then I'll do it every 12, because in my head it's exciting to respond to like 20 situations or 40 situations. It's just not as exciting to just sit down and respond to 5 or 6, right? But that's a personality thing, really. So I do have some structure in the sense that I do have to check that every day, right? So usually that's what I do when I first wake up, is that I wake up and I look at my orders and then fulfill orders and do the customer service stuff. And then once I'm done with that, that's just like the start of the day. That's not really the work, right? Because I view work, there's two kinds of work. There is the work that is necessary to maintain existing systems, right? And then there's the work that increases your future income, and that is the work that changes your life. That work that makes your future life better. So for me, like processing sales is work that I have to do to maintain an existing system. Processing the sales isn't necessarily going to change my future, right? Whereas making YouTube videos, like I don't technically need to make a YouTube video every day, but recording makes me happy, and the happier I am, I just put out exponentially more content. I'm a better friend. I just live more. I appreciate things more. For me, I don't associate being happy with being content, because for me, being content, I'm depressed. To be happy, I have to feel like I'm improving, and I have to be doing better at something that I used to be bad at. And also I have to be contributing to success in other people's lives. That's really important for me. I can't just have success in my own life, because I care more about myself now than I used to, but I used to be really detached after my father passed, and I just didn't give a fuck about me. Like I really didn't. And I'm not trying to sound altruistic or anything. I was just like nihilist in that sense. When it came to my own well-being, I wasn't very motivated to fix things. Whereas when it came to being there for people that I love and improving myself so that I can provide, like, help other people live better lives, that gives me more energy to improve than just kind of working on myself, if that makes sense. So a lot of life is about learning, like, what scenarios you improve best in, regardless to whether you find it easy or not, you know, and we have to just kind of throw ourselves into the situations that we know are best for our development. That isn't always easy though. That can be really, really, really challenging emotionally. But that's what I do to myself, is I throw myself into scenarios over and over and over again, that I know are gonna shape me into they're going to increase some character trait that I want at the moment, or increase my access to information, or increase my structure in some way. There's always like a specific goal. But yeah, so the laptop, I spend a lot of time here, to the point where I become very aware of location burnout. And that's when you are like working too much in one specific place. So I find that what helps a lot with that is actually every 2 or 3 days, I move where I'm working. Even if it's really simple, like, okay, I'm in this room a lot, right? And then I move so that I'm working on the couch or something. Being able to change the location really, really, really helps, because I definitely get a little bit of a depression if I'm in the house all the time. I can't stay and work in one place. So that leads to other things, is that, like, for me, it's not about like working or not. I don't really have days where I'm off, or days where, like, it's hard to explain. Because, okay, when you leave the hourly life and the salary life behind, things become more kind of about balance, and it changes a lot in the way that your head works, right? So how do I articulate this? I guess, okay, every day there is a balance, and there is a way to create a perfect day that makes me happier. That perfect day has components. Some of those components include what you would traditionally refer to as working. But for me, like, because I know that if I increase my happiness, then everything else exponentially grows, I can focus on what makes me happy, okay? And in order to be happy, I do need to feel that I have done both kinds of work. So I need to have done a little bit of work that is necessary to continue my day, right? So in this situation, I need to have caught up with my sales. I need to have processed all my orders and all my customer message stuff. I don't have to constantly keep up with that, because, you know, when you're big and you get it every couple minutes, you can't necessarily always be caught up, because you have to take things in chunks. But, you know, not getting behind is really good, right? So there's some basic stuff like that I need in a given day, in a given working day, to satisfy my, like, long-term happiness. And the first one is having that work done, that like necessity work, right? And then the next thing is spending more time on future stuff, because that's the work that's more fulfilling, is doing the stuff that allows me to earn more in the future, right? So for me, that's making YouTube videos. The dropshipping stuff really doesn't take that much time. Dropshipping really for me is a way to create YouTube content. It's something that I enjoy, and making videos about it makes me learn things and articulate things and speak better. But I'm not like a full-time dropshipper. There's like, I full-time use dropshipping information, but I don't spend all day working on dropshipping. And that's kind of really funny, a funny thing about bulk, because a lot of people who optimize don't do bulk dropshipping because in their heads, they're like, $10,000 or sorry, 10,000 listings, 100,000 listings, like that's so much work. And it's common to hear metaphors like, oh, you're moving a whole bunch of dirt for not much gold, that kind of thing. But they're still stuck in that mentality of like, they're thinking about it from an optimizer's point of view because they're an optimizer. And the number of listings is literally just a number. That number does not correlate to time spent in a bulk model. And it's funny for me because I forget that. And then I'm thinking like I do this for like 30 minutes or an hour a day, if that. Like, it really isn't that time consuming at all, you know? But it's different, and I'm getting sidetracked here. My point is, I don't really have a set schedule. I have an ideal day that includes things related to work, but also I can't deny the parts of me that need to socialize and to spend time with other people in a way that I feel like I'm helping them. I don't have to always be like that, but I do definitely, I'm happier when I feel like I can provide something in some way that assists people. I'm perfectly fine to get help myself as well, but I definitely like to be able to reciprocate things a lot. And if I'm in a situation and I don't feel that I can do anything good for the people around me, I probably won't remain in that situation very long. And ultimately, that was one of the reasons that I left Grindspace when I was living with Mark, was because I realized pretty quickly that I could not do anything good for the people that I was around. And I personally benefited so much, but because I have this focus on balance, the people there did not. For them, it was all about getting the information to get money, right? Which makes sense. But for me, like I definitely felt like I absorbed enough information and got to a point where I really understood, like, you can never know all the possible ways to make money online. There's so many of them. It's not a matter of like learning about what's possible. It's about like working with your habit and routine and the balance in your life to create the best you that you can become and figure out how to incorporate those monetization strategies into that bigger picture. And so that's why, like, for me, it's more about, I take it day by day and I think about like, okay, I need to work, but at the same time, if I work all day, I will become increasingly more depressed unless I'm doing other things that are fulfilling. But I also need to be like, what's the point of having stuff if you don't have people to share it with, right? And it really is, it's important to have that balance and understand that it's not just about the hours of work that you put into it. Especially as entrepreneurs, a lot of us have this mentality that's like, oh, I gotta show that I'm like committed and I'm a badass and I work all day. Like, that's a very real energy that you're gonna face as an entrepreneur. You're gonna have like go through times where you feel like if you don't do that, then you're not progressing or you're not doing the most that you can. But it's important, like really important, to be able to take a step back and understand the bigger picture and understand yourself as a person, understand your needs, and identify what you need in a scenario, in a situation, a living situation, in order to thrive and be at your fullest and your most motivated, while also being pushed to improve, whether that's internal pressure from yourself or from someone else. You know, personally, pressure from other people fucks me. I don't like, when other people pressure me to do shit, I just kind of shut down. Because most of the time, most of my life, I've been pressured to do stuff that isn't relevant to my own personal happiness, nor is it directly relevant to being able to improve myself to a point where I can change other people's lives. And because I have a very specific, that's very motivating for me. A lot of situations, just in general, it's easier for other people to be like, you do this one thing wrong, you just got to change that. If I were you, I'd be great. You know, that's just how people are. My point is balance is really, really critical, and you got to know yourself well and know how to put yourself in situations that make you improve, right? So for me, this is what it looks like when I work. Like I have to think, it's more about being aware of that, being aware of like, okay, do I have a proper support network of friends? Do I have an adequate amount of distractions, but not just like, because distractions are definitely a balance. You need to be able to put your work down. If you are always thinking about work, you are not making the best decisions that you could be making. That is inevitable. Like, it's a good test, actually. If there's something in your mind and you have been holding on to that thought and thinking about it regularly all day, the best thing you can do is figure out how to put that thought down and then come back to it. And once you have put it down and come back to it, then you are ready to make a good informed decision, right? But you can't just like let those things consume you, right? All right, I think that's enough babbling for now. Yeah, that's, I do a lot of distracted attention. I don't know if I got to that earlier, but distracted attention is when instead of doing one thing for an hour and then, or like one thing for like 6 hours, I'll do one thing for 15 minutes and then another thing for 15 minutes and then another thing for 15 minutes. And then I'll go back and do the same thing over and over again. And what I find is that each time I switch to a new task, I'm more focused, less depressed, and more able to continue the task for longer periods of time, right? So the most productive periods of time I've ever had in my life, like when I've worked on one specific thing for more than like 24 hours straight, or for like 3 or 4 days in a row, just working on that, not really doing anything else, that has always come from some use of distracted attention. And this is where games like Dark Souls really come in handy, because you can play it for like 5-10 minutes, and then every time you die or every time something happens, you then go do something else. So there's a lot of situations where what I would do is I would play a game like that, and then I would die, and then I'd work for 30 minutes, and then I'd play the game for like 15 minutes, and then work for 30 minutes. And I didn't have timers, so it wasn't always 15, 30. The way that I would figure out would be like, I just try and make sure that my brain is always pursuing the thing it's currently actively occupied with. Because if you live that way, then what you'll find is that you just perform so much better, obviously. Like when you actually, like the deeper parts of you really want something and they really want to do it, then like you can perform exponentially better than people who are half-assing it and who aren't really in it and who don't really have an active interest, right? So if you can, I can't control what I'm actively interested in, but I can observe my habits and my tendencies and know what I tend to get interested in, and then use that to populate my lifestyle with regular interactions with that force. I know that's really abstract, but that's how I find progress and how I work. So I hope that this video has given you guys a little bit more insight into what my life looks like, because you could pretty easily imagine how this could be different. You know, I'm living in West Virginia with my best friend and his now fiance, but you know, if I'm living with my mother, then maybe different scenario. Or if I'm living in Nicaragua or somewhere else, you know, bunch of different possibilities. But it would look pretty much the same, considering most of it comes from eating, cooking, doing laptop work, recording YouTube videos. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. I guess I gotta just do the end screen thing now, huh? Sweet.